And joining me right now is straight out of North Carolina, Indy Pro Wrestler, Roni Nicole. She's with me right now. Hello, Roni.
Hi, Kenny. How are you doing today?
I'm doing real good. How are you?
Doing very well. So glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for being on the show as well. And I hope I pronounced your name right. Is it Roni or is it Roni as a macaroni?
No, you got it right, Ronnie Nicole. That's correct.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure. Well, let's just go ahead and begin. What made you decided to become a wrestler?
I had always had an interest in wrestling. It was kind of one of those pathways that was unexplored because I didn't know exactly how you would become a professional wrestler. You know, as a child, you don't really think through the logistics of how things have to occur. So um, my very first experience with actual professional wrestling and not on a collegiate or high school level was watching Monday Night Raw, the actual inaugural episode. And so from that point, I kind of knew I would end up there somehow. I just didn't really have a lot of uh, answers at the time, you know, as to what I needed to do to get to the level of the women and gentlemen that I was seeing on TV. And so when the opportunity presented itself about 3 years ago, I jumped on it. You know, there's all people say luck is timing and being in the right time at the right place and all that. And one of these, in this instance, I do believe that it was a timing thing that I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to train and pursue this dream. So it's awesome to be able to do that, you know, especially with being young and not really knowing how I was going to get there.
So, that being said, do you remember your first ever wrestling match that you ever had? And if so, who was your opponent or opponents, and what company did you work for?
My very first match was against Shinobi for New School Wrestling in Jamestown, North Carolina. It was really impromptu. I was there actually just traveling, kind of learning the road and learning the ropes with a fellow wrestler, Victor, Mr. Everything Andrews, who's currently tag teaming with James Anthony as First Generation. And he was booked on the show that day. I was just traveling around to get some ring time and to, you know, to see how it would be once I actually started wrestling on shows full time because at the time I was not released from my training school to wrestle. Um, well, it turned out that someone didn't show, you know, as it is wont to happen on the indies. And the promoter asked me if I would be interested in wrestling my first match. And I was a little taken aback because, you know, I wasn't 100% prepared mentally to go out there and, you know, perform when I was just there to be a bystander. But we cleared it with everybody at school, and Victor was like, I think you can do it. And he actually said, I know you can do it. So I did, and the rest is history. It was a really easy, straightforward match. I had a good time, and I got to hit some cool things that I've been working on in training, and I was really, you know, grateful to have that be my first wrestling experience and for it to go the way that it did, you know, because I know there are a lot of fellow wrestlers and some vets that I've respected very much who have not had such an easy transition into their first wrestling experience. So I'm very grateful that mine was.
That's very good to hear. Considering from the wrestlers I've talked to throughout the years, and some say that uh, the butterflies kicked in, got nervous, and things didn't quite go the way they hoped. But they will look at it as a learning experience and just go on from there. And in your case, you feel like it turned out pretty well for you, and you felt ready, you felt prepared, and you were very thrilled with the result. And that's great to hear, and feels like you haven't looked back ever since. You come from North Carolina. Now, I know you're originally from Texas,
Correct.
and we all know Texas has quite the history with pro wrestling, and
Okay.
wrestlers that's have success throughout the decades with the likes of a Steve Austin, a Shawn Michaels, Von Erichs, Eddie Guerrero. The list goes on and on. Like, how do you being a Texas native and all? I know you currently live in North Carolina, but I mean, how does that make you feel as a Texan, just seeing the success of your fellow Texans in the wrestling industry throughout the decades?
Um, I think that it, it just fuels me to continue the tradition of wrestling in general. Being originally from Houston, and knowing the talent that comes out of Texas and the wonderful promotions that are currently ongoing there, it gives me more motivation to represent, my origin, so to speak, well. That being said, I do live in North Carolina, and that's the home of wrestling if you really think about it. So I definitely have a lot of responsibility, I feel, to represent wrestling well for both places, as well as represent women in wrestling well, because you don't have too many who, are coming out of North Carolina and reaching those high pinnacles of success. So it's important to me, you know, um, to really experience and to show all through all my matches and through what I've been trained to do the best possible performance possible. So I don't know if that answers your question 100% correctly, but at least that's what I feel is my responsibility, having those connections to those states.
I truly believe you did answer my question and then some.
Hello?
In order to avoid being headlocked when you see me in the middle of the street, I'll just say yeah, yeah. You answered my question fully. um,
Okay.
so that being said, we talked about women wrestling in general, and obviously male wrestling is still dominant as obviously, but women wrestling has come along. There are women companies with Shine and WSU and Shimmer, etc. And internationally, people getting recognition and things like that. And you currently reside in North Carolina. There's not a whole lot of women wrestlers in the Carolinas. I guess the only one I can recall, a few I can, is Amanda Rodriguez, Atesha Blanchard, you know, and I guess in order for some talent to be in your neck of the woods, or you have to be where they are, is you have to drive far. Does and you being a wrestling, all does that kind of, is that frustrating that you feel like there's not a whole lot of women wrestlers in your current area that you can work with or try to develop with?
No, not really necessarily frustrated. It does present interesting challenges to be seen by those organizations that you mentioned, such as Shimmer and Shine and WSU, because they are specifically looking for women who are able to work other women, excuse me, to wrestle other women very well. So it does present challenges in that way as far as a lot of the footage that I do have is intergender. However, when you become a wrestler, it is pretty much understood that you will have to go where the show is. So as far as travel, if I have to travel over 3 or 4 hours to get to a show, that's what I'm going to do because it's my responsibility to be at that show. That is an agreement I've made with that promoter and with those fans that I will be there and give them all that I can in that performance. So, the travel is not really a thing. Wrestling started traveling around. So it to me makes sense for you to go to different places to wrestle because you are keeping with the rich history of, the origins of wrestling.
So you don't mind traveling, and that's great to hear. In order to get to where you go, you have to expand yourself. You have to, show that you're not just focusing on your local companies. You want to, You want to get your name out there, and you're not going to get your name out there by just focusing with one company or whatever. So that's great to hear. And speaking of traveling, Miss Nicole, I did hear that you recently made your debut for a company entitled Magnificent Ladies Wrestling, which is a custom wrestling company for women wrestlers. And some of the big names in women wrestler have been there in the past. And now that you have been through that experience, what was it like being part of it?
It was a wonderful experience. Shout out to all of my MLOW ladies and family, especially Mama Destiny. Hey, love you. It was wonderful. One, Tennessee is also a big hub for wrestling, and to actually have the opportunity to do customs and then also participate in a live show that same weekend in Tennessee was, that was a really good experience for me to be able to go there and see the talent that they have and that is especially centered on women. Was able to see some matches with some incredible women, made a lot of great connections, made a lot of, I'm sure, friends for life. And it's really humbling to be around so many women who have been in the business for varied numbers of time and have this incredible work ethic and really want to see each other succeed and do well and have a good time. Oftentimes, women get a bad reputation for being catty or not being able to get along when we all get together. I did not experience any of that when I was there. Everyone made me feel extremely welcome. There was long hours, but even throughout the wee hours of the morning, everyone was still fun and upbeat, and just trying to make sure everyone was having a good time and everyone felt welcome, and we were getting work done, but as well as getting a little play in there. So it was definitely an awesome experience. I look forward to going back and seeing everyone and participating again. And I can't praise Destiny enough for all that she has done to really take over that company and revamp it into what a proper customs company should be. So a lot of kudos to her and all of her staff that really work hard to make that happen.
So I guess for people that wants to, I don't know if they have the latest downloads posted up or not, but if they have, you can go to magnificentladieswrestling.com and you can purchase those downloads. You can purchase Roni Nicole matches and many matches from some of the biggest names in female wrestling. And it's pretty clear you do want to come back. So once the opportunity does present itself, please book her some more matches. The more the merrier, apparently. And so I'm just saying. Um, so Wani, are there any other female wrestlers out there that you haven't had a chance to work with, but would like to work with someday?
Oh, wow. Honestly, the list is extremely long. But and right now, though, I'm kind of setting my sights overseas. So there's definitely a lot of women overseas who I would love to get the opportunity to work for. And I'm hoping that by preparing and working extremely hard here, I will receive that opportunity in the future. But Hikura Shiada, I'm sorry, of course I'm going to butcher their names, and Miyako Matsumoto are two women who I would love to get the opportunity to work with. Miyako, she's just really incredible, and I really admire her passion in the ring and her fighting style. And of course, my dream match would be not necessarily overseas, but if I was overseas and she happened to be there, I would love to wrestle a match with Awesome Kong. She is definitely my role model in this business. I really have patterned a lot of what I do similar style to her, being a larger statured female. I run into a lot of the same things that she had in her journey. So she's definitely um, one of my big inspirations, and even closer to home, Lady Tappa, who is one of my female mentors in the business. She's given me pointers at shows before, but we've never actually been able to be in the ring together. So the opportunity to do that would really be awesome as well, just to get in there and experience what the Queen of Rings can do. So yeah, I hope that answers and isn't too all over the place.
I would not mind seeing you going up against Tapa. And I've seen her wrestle for Ohio Valley Wrestling here in the Kentucky area, and I interviewed her like way before the gut check thing came about, and she comes from she was pretty much born into the wrestling industry, and she took pride and wanted to continue the heritage that her family members carried, and made me happy to see her on TV. Made me happy to see how far she's come, and hopefully she'll get another opportunity elsewhere. And Tapa, if you, I don't know if she's listening or not. She's a lot more busy these days. But if you just so happen to be listening, there is an up and coming named Ronnie Nicole would like to take you on. I'm just putting it out there. Um, but hey, I would love to see that match. To tell you the truth, I definitely would. Um, so Wani, what is your favorite part of being a wrestler? Is it the fan interaction? Is it the traveling? Is it being with your peers in the locker room? Like, what is the one thing you like the most of being a wrestler?
But I would have to say perfecting my craft, making sure that I'm in the ring no less than twice a week, working with the guys at school, and making sure that everything is sharp, it looks intense, and is explosive. That, to me, is the best part of wrestling, because that is the time where I can learn and experiment and try things out that I may have seen from other talent or may have seen, through watching film. It gives me an opportunity to really test the limits of what I can do as a professional wrestler. And so having that opportunity each week, to me, at this point, is extremely important, because wrestling is lifelong learning, And so if you don't continue to learn and push yourself over what you think you are able to handle or do, especially when it comes to wrestling, then you become stagnant. And that is something that, a lot of people don't take into consideration. Whether you are busy every weekend with a show, if you are also not taking the time during the week to keep yourself sharp and keep yourself on top of your game, then, you're doing yourself and the fans and the promoter an injustice, because you're not going to only, of course, you'll be able to grow through every show that you do, but it's a different type of growth, in my opinion, and you need that experience in front of people, but you also need those fundamentals to stay sharp and stay fresh in your mind, and use that time to become better at what you do. And you can't necessarily do that if every single weekend you are, doing something somewhere else with someone who may be not at the same skill level as you, or, they may have done something irresponsible in the ring and caused you to be hurt. So then, you're in a whole different situation where you're not even able to do what you love to do. So to me, that is the best part. I love interacting with fans. I love traveling. All of it is wonderful. All of it has its upsides and all of it has its downsides. But for me, being able to have the opportunity to get in the ring with some great veterans who have been in this business and have been somewhere in this business, and actually learn from them and absorb all of that knowledge, so that when the time comes for me to go up top or overseas, or to, even help instruct others who are wanting to do this when it comes the appropriate time for myself to do so, that's gonna, that I hold dear to my heart, and is really what is the best part about wrestling to me.
So, Wani, for people out there that wants to learn more from your work, upcoming matches, that's just one thing. I feel like a knucklehead for again to ask you if you have any upcoming matches or events that you'll like to promote. Go right ahead and promote them.
This Saturday, I actually have an upcoming match in Thomasville, North Carolina, and I'm really looking forward to that because that will be the actual inaugural match between myself and Miss Tessa Blanchard, and that's going to be at PWX. The show starts at 8 p.m., and it's going to be at the Thomasville National Guard Armory. I hope to bring my own style of wrestling and brand of no mercy to Thomasville and maybe take down the wrath of, well, definitely take down the wrath of Tessa Blanchard. October, you can see me at All Pro Classic Wrestling on the 4th, High Volume Pro Wrestling in Kinston on the 11th, Trans-South on the 17th, Pure Pro Wrestling on the 18th, PWX again on the 19th, and then on the 24th, I will be in Brooklyn, New York for Valkyrie, making my first debut up there against Asia Pereira. So any